My name is William Innes. I live in Los Angeles, California, and I'm a wedding photographer and a travel photographer. So I love traveling around the world. So if I can get destination weddings, those are the best because I get to travel and photograph the wedding. Ironically, I never wanted to be a wedding photographer. When I was young, I took a lot of photos, and then I actually had a career in the aerospace industry for a couple of years. And there was a period I never photographed at all. And in 1998, I ended up buying a camera and got back into it. And my nephews, I like landscape photography. I'm originally from Canada, and my nephew in Canada asked me to come out there and photograph his wedding. Well, when I look at my wedding pictures, when I got married, I thought wedding photography was very cheesy. But then I bought a book on wedding photography 12 years ago, and it sort of became an art form. So I went up to Canada, I photographed this wedding, had a lot of fun, and I decided when I retire, I'm going to be a wedding photographer. Well, a year later, the company I was working for, to be honest, my boss sort of like got under my skin on a Friday afternoon, and I quit. Monday morning, I was a wedding photographer. I had no clients, zero. But here I am 12 years later with a successful wedding business. So that's how I started. Yeah, before each wedding, it is really important to be prepared. So one of the things I learned from my old days in aerospace is you need to have a checklist. And if you have a checklist, you don't have to remember anything. So before every single wedding, I go through my checklist that has things like clean my camera, make sure I have all my SD cards or all my batteries charged. Back in the old days, maybe I have a background, you don't need that anymore with the phone technology. But I have this checklist and I go through every single time before I shoot a wedding. So when I walk out the door to go shoot it, I'm 100% prepared. Yeah, I made the switch a couple of years ago to get away from the big cameras, the big DSLRs, because they're very big and they're very heavy. Anybody who shoots a, let's say, a big name camera and they're shooting a 70 to 200 lens, it probably weighs 6 pounds. So a couple years ago, I switched to the micro four thirds mirrorless camera. I shoot Panasonic GH5s and GH9. Last year, I shot 35 weddings with 2 of those. I use Nissan flashes because they work really good with the Panasonic cameras. And for post-production, I use BenQ monitors, the SW series, and I use a Wacom tablet to do my editing. Yeah, I think a good tip is that you should a couple of things. You need to learn your camera. You actually have to, remember when you first started driving a car, you would think about it too much, you would think about putting the turn signal on, and very nervous driving. And then after driving for a couple of years, you don't even think about those things. So I tell photographers they need to read their camera manual and get very comfortable with their equipment and gear that they don't even have to think when they're using it. It's really important. It does become second nature. Exactly.
Even the checklist you prepare, it also becomes a second nature for you.
It does. And the reason I have checklists, they've proven that a lot of people that say your mind should be used for thinking and not for remembering. The monitor is really important. So I used to use one monitor and a Cintiq, which is a very expensive Wacom monitor you draw on, but it got really old, so I decided to replace it. Now I'm using 2 SW monitors and a new Wacom tablet. And I usually have Lightroom or Bridge open on one screen and Photoshop on the other screen. And the thing I like about the color accuracy, they're 99% RGB accurate, which is really important. As a photographer, if you calibrate the monitor, what you see is what you get. I can order prints or wedding albums from my lab, and because I trust the color, now I don't have to pay my lab to have those images colored correctly. It saves me probably about 30% on my lab costs every year. I think that's really good. Absolutely easy to calibrate, and the color is absolutely amazing. That's what's most important to me. Well, I choose a monitor by color accuracy. You go online and you check the specs, and you got to look at price these days. So you got to look for value. And when I found the SW monitors, the value was unbelievable for what you get. So that's why I ended up choosing it. I mean, resolution is sort of like dependent, but what you don't want is 4K resolution at this point in time. The reason you don't want it is because, unfortunately, our friends at Adobe have not scaled the user interface to be very good. So that unless you can see very, very, very tiny letters, you really don't need a 4K monitor, unless you're shooting video. So the cameras I shoot also shoot 4K video. And we have a thing called 4K photo mode in those cameras, and 6K photo mode. So that's when it will become more important to have a monitor that is 4K. So, that's interesting. So where I live, there seems to be still a pretty good separation that you're either shooting video or photography, although there are some that are shooting both. And I think if you're shooting both, then it would be good to have the 4K monitor. Because there's no doubt everything is going to 4K. We're already talking 6K and 8K in the show we're at today. So.
Well, thank you for your time, William.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, and I really appreciate it.